Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Paranormal Stories. And first up today, we have my haunted apartment story by Usurping Monkeys. Well, it's about time somebody did. About 7 years ago, I had an experience that completely changed my beliefs about ghosts or demons. I rarely talk about it, but I'm hoping someone here has gone through something similar. At the time, I was a young mom going through a divorce with two small kids, ages 1 and 2. My daughter was autistic and already showing intense behaviors. Self-harming, screaming, tearing things up, refusing clothes, and lining things up. And at the same time, I had the beginnings of an autoimmune disease, but didn't know it yet. My ex-husband was around constantly to help with the kids because I desperately needed support. We didn't get along, though. We lived in a cheap, spacious apartment in a rough area of Dallas. I was a hardcore atheist back then, being really pretentious about religion, and was convinced everything had a scientific explanation. But the first time I went into this specific apartment, I got this weird vibe, a dark feeling, from this small closet where the water heater was, but shrugged it off. Months of stress and arguments, particularly between my ex-husband and I, passed before anything happened. First thing that happened. I was showering one night. I realized my shampoo was in the other non-working bathroom. When I went to retrieve it, the door connecting the two bedrooms, one I never ever closed or locked because I made sure I could hear my kids who were in each bedroom, was locked. From the inside, but I never ever did that. I was alone, kids asleep, and my ex was gone. In a panic, I grabbed a heavy trophy, ready to stupidly charge some intruder. But nothing was disturbed, the front door was locked, and my kids were fine. Freaked me out, but I went back to finish my shower. Back in the shower, I felt this cartoonish scratching on the inside of my legs, like an animal or something. I even took pictures of all the red marks and sent them to a friend. She suggested maybe poltergeist energy, like a build-up of negative energy. I was like, yeah, I don't know. After a few weeks, I sort of just decided it wasn't important. Thing 2. However, next thing I know, I wake up with a long scratch all the way down my arm. After that, my ex-husband came over, and while outside smoking, on the porch right outside the glass doors, which were cracked, he got an identical scratch on his arm out of nowhere. I freaked out, but he basically told me to chill out. Went on making dinner, and when we sat down for dinner, my 2-year-old took off her shirt, and I saw a single scratch all the way down her back. Obviously, it freaked me the hell out. Incident 3. So, I don't know how much later, I was talking to my sister about this stuff. She was religious, I wasn't. The fan wasn't on, AC or heat wasn't on either. As I was talking to her, a clear handprint pushed outward from inside my curtain. Most frozen in fear I've ever been. My sister told me to pray, and my atheist butt prayed my butt off right there. A friend came over, helped me burn incense, and firmly raised my voice at whatever it was to leave. I did. And for 2 months, things were quiet. Final incident. When I was finally brave enough to stay in the apartment by myself, was having my ex-husband sleep on our couch for months. He took the kids to his mom's house for the day. It was peaceful, and I was like, okay, maybe the insect. That was until I hung up the phone with my ex, who said he was about 10 minutes away. Over half of the wall, between the kitchen and living room, a fork shot straight up damn near the ceiling as soon as I hung up and fell back down. Ran out, called my ex-husband, freaking out, and once again he acted like I was being hysterical. I stayed outside until he arrived, still telling me I was being ridiculous as I'm begging him to listen. Well, all of a sudden I heard this noise, like punching your hand against your palm, and my ex grabbed his forehead and was like, WTF. Took his hand off, and a red mark on his head started forming. Then around the corner from the kitchen sink, water started pouring out from the bottom of a random kitchen wall. Like imagine any random wall in your house, then water pouring out. We grabbed the kids and ran out of there like bats out of hell, called a friend, but drove for around 30 minutes before coming back. The floor where the water was, bone dry. I talked to another friend who was friends with a Native American woman who was in tune with this stuff. She told me how to properly line my apartment with salt, and nothing happened, but we couldn't sleep in that apartment, so we broke the lease early. If I hadn't experienced this alongside another person, I'd think I was losing my mind. Has anyone ever experienced something like this? Just desperately looking for people with similar experiences. My ex-husband doesn't even like talking about it. Alright, second story today is My Polite Poltergeist Story by Obvious Wombat 623. This is my one and only first-hand experience with what I can only describe as a poltergeist. This happened in the late 90s. I was young, 21, and living with my boyfriend at the time. Neither of us made a lot of money, so we got a cheap apartment in the grey area between the good part of town and the bad part of town. I worked days, he worked nights. I came home from work one day, said goodbye to my boyfriend as he headed to work, changed, and then went grocery shopping. When I came back home, I walked into chaos. A few things hit me right away. Every single light was on, and the stereo was as loud as it would go, tuned to some talk radio station. I knew I had turned off the lights when I left for the store, because it was a habit to keep the power bill affordable. Not only was the stereo not on when I left, nor did I have it on before I left, the station it was tuned to was nothing that either my boyfriend or I would listen to. It was one of those stereos with station presets and press buttons to tune it. The station was nowhere near one of those presets, so it wasn't like it was bad reception that was causing it to fade into a neighboring station. Those who know. As I walked through the apartment to go turn off the stereo, I noticed the cat was nowhere in sight. After turning off the stereo, I went looking for her. I noticed that every sink was completely full to the brim, but the faucets were off. All the hairs on my arms and the back of my neck were standing up. I finally heard the cat meow, and I found her in the top cabinet of the in-wall pantry. There's absolutely no way she could have gotten in there on her own. The door was above my head, and it was a door with a small groove on the side that you use to open it, no handles or knobs. There was nothing nearby, no table, no countertop, no ledge, that the cat could have used to even jump up there, let alone open the door on her own. I freaked out and called my boyfriend. He listened to me babble about what happened and stayed on the phone with me while I did a tour of the apartment to make sure no one had broken in and was hiding in a closet or something. Nobody there. He had me confirm that nothing was missing, so we decided it wasn't a robbery break-in. As I was still pretty freaked and on the verge of hyperventilating, he called the front desk of the apartment complex to see if there had been any issues around our apartment, to see if maybe someone started to break in and ran off before they finished or something. Turns out there had been an altercation at the apartment next to us. We had long suspected that our neighbors were dealing drugs and thought maybe it was related to that. They said security had to escort some very angry men away, but that nothing had happened to our apartment directly. Boyfriend said jokingly that it must have been a ghost trying to make it look like someone was home by turning on the lights and putting the stereo on a talk station. So that altercation next door didn't end with one of the guys trying to break in and steal our things. He then said something like the ghost had better do some housework and pay for the higher utility bills we're going to get, and said we'd talk about it the next day when we were both off work. He didn't want to talk about it much in the apartment, but when we left to go for a walk, he said he wasn't sure if it was a ghost, but if it was, he believed that the last thing you wanted to do was get scared. By treating it lightly, he felt like it wouldn't feed the ghost fear. Since it hadn't done anything destructive, the worst thing it had done was put the cat in the cabinet. We should just let it be. A few days later, I got a call at work from him where it was his turn to sound a little freaked out. He asked if I had vacuumed and put the dishes away before I left for work. I told him no, and he said he came back from an errand to find the entire apartment completely vacuumed, perfect lines, and no footprints leading to the closet the vacuum was stored in. Also, all the dishes were put away in proper places. He said that maybe the ghost heard his joke about doing housework and took it seriously. Nothing else really happened after that, though the cat was obsessed with sitting on the edge of the tub and staring into it from that point on, something she had never done before. My own guess was that our polite poltergeist was a former resident who maybe died in the bathtub, and who was trying to protect their apartment from a potential threat. Who knows? Story number 3 today is Spirit Attached to Me, Any Insight Appreciated, by FeistyRow4275. Hopefully someone with more experience and knowledge can provide some insight about this. I was talking to my roommate about this story, and she told me to take it to Reddit, which is where I found it. As a young teen, around 12 or 13, I had a lot of strange experiences that I now believe could be because of a spirit. At the time I was completely oblivious, and it became almost second nature to me at some point, so I never really processed or looked any deeper into it. But here goes. At this particular point in my life, I was extremely depressed. For no reason in particular, really, maybe hormones, but for a good year and a half, I was struggling pretty intensely with self-harm and my mental health. Not want to get personal online, but I think it could be relevant for context. I could only ever describe it as extremely burnt Brussels sprouts. I remember in one instance mentioning the Brussels sprout smell to my sister and getting an extremely confused look in return. It got to the point where I felt something in my nose was like decaying, but the smell was not decay. It was a burnt sprouts-like smell, like charred Brussels sprouts. That's how I thought of it at the time, and it's the only way to describe it now. Extremely charred burnt black Brussels sprouts. Anyways, this went on for maybe a year, max. Not sure exactly how long, but for an extended period of time for sure. I also was experiencing waking up every morning, without fail, at 3 a.m. I probably sound completely insane. It was always 3 exactly, or 3:03, or 3:33, or 3:36, 3:30, you get the idea. Every morning without fail. I decided it was just because I was depressed and was getting restless sleep. At this time I was having super vivid dreams. I have pretty vivid dreams anyways, and often when I wake up mid-dream, I will see things in my room. I once saw a goat. I've seen squirrels running up my walls. On a scary instance, I saw a puppet. I usually just blink until it goes away or shut my eyes and go back to sleep. I bring this up because I was having reoccurring dreams about someone I've never seen before. The first time was her head on top of a decapitated chicken. Oh, goodness. That was probably the strangest instance as well. And while I usually brush off my dreams, it was pretty disturbing and really shook me up. It was quite scary. The next time, she was in a gown made of, like, straw or something. And the third time, she was outside my window. This could be unrelated, but worth mentioning. The last instance is where me and my sister woke up to something screaming in our ears. Not much more to say about that one, pretty weird. Anyhow, these instances could all be completely unrelated. I've just been thinking about it constantly. Talking to my roommate made me remember all this, and I'm kicking myself for not making sense of it sooner. If anyone has some insight, don't hesitate to share. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to hear them. Researching on my own just hasn't been fulfilling, and I'm wanting second opinions. Thanks for listening. Story number 4 today is Paranormal Experience, Thoughts, by VirtualWater8617. Hey everyone, I had a pretty intense paranormal experience about a year ago, and I wanted to share it and get your thoughts on what I might have experienced. At the time, I was living in a house built in the late 70s, early 80s, just outside Nashville. My room was in the half-basement, not fully underground, and the house had a very unsettling vibe from the start. The basement always felt unusually still, and anyone who came over mentioned the same thing. One night, around 1 a.m., I was lying in bed with my girlfriend, when the light outside the door to the backyard started clicking on and off. There was a window next to the door right under the light, and the switch was a push button inside the room, so it made a loud clicking noise when pressed. I woke up when I heard it click on and then off. But it wasn't just the light turning on and off. The button was making the clicking sound like someone was pressing it. I lay there frozen in fear, watching it click on and off about 5 or 6 times in 8 to 10 second intervals. I woke my girlfriend up, and she saw the light turn on once before audibly gasping. Right when she did, my ukulele, which was leaning against the wall, fell face first onto the ground, making a loud crashing noise, and my dog, who was upstairs, suddenly freaked out. He ran downstairs, and as soon as he entered the room, everything stopped. The light turned off, and the weirdness ended. From that point on, I couldn't turn that light on again. We were pretty scared, but managed to fall back asleep after talking about it in bed and trying to make sense of it all. The next morning, I went upstairs to tell my roommate what happened. I was in the living room with him, mimicking the light flickering by flipping the recessed light switches on and off. When I turned them on again, the lights went from dim, warm yellow to super bright and turned a bluish hue while buzzing. I quickly turned them off, and we just stared at each other in disbelief. I tried turning them on again, and the exact same thing happened. The lights went bright and buzzed. They looked brighter and more blue than strong fluorescent bulbs in an office or something like that. I shut them off, and we both freaked out. A couple of days later, I had to drive across country for the holidays, and I was gone for 2 weeks. While I was away, my roommate and his girlfriend kept hearing footsteps going up and down the stairs to my basement every night. It got so bad that they ended up renting an Airbnb until I got back. When I came home, I bought some holy wood and sage to do a cleansing of the house, as just an effort to do something with this issue. After that, the experiences stopped, and I've never had anything happen there again. To this day, it remains the scariest, most unexplainable thing that's ever happened to me. I've tried to rationalize it. Maybe a surge in the electrical panel could explain the lights flickering and the brightness change. The ukulele falling could have been a coincidence, but it fell directly on its face when it was leaning against the wall. But not impossible. The timing was just really weird, though. Anyway, I'd love to hear any thoughts or ideas on what could have caused all this. Okay, and the 5th and final story for this video is My Paranormal Experience by Maggot 742617000027. We'll just call them Maggot. Hello everyone. I want to share something that hasn't left my mind since it first happened. First, I want to apologize for my bad English, so you know it's going to be fine. Before I get to the story, I just want to give a small disclaimer. Do not go to abandoned buildings, and if you do, be careful. Do not take anything from the building. We were very stupid by doing what we did. Now on to the story. It all happened in the year 2021. Day 1, house entering. So I live in a very small village where there aren't many places to go. Me and my friends needed a place where we could go without being seen by other people, and because in my village there are a lot of abandoned houses, we decided we'll go in one. We went in like 2 houses, and then we saw a house that we hadn't noticed before. We decided to go in. As a normal abandoned house, it was locked. We had like a crowbar thingy with us, so we tried to break the lock, and we did, but we still couldn't open the door. I broke one of the small windows on the door and peeked to see. There was a chair blocking the door. Weird, isn't it? Anyways, we went in. The house was pretty much clean for an abandoned house. It was very tidy, except for one room. It was full of clothes all over it. That was the first room we went in. However, it wasn't a big deal, so we decided we'd go to another room, the bedroom. It was locked. We broke the lock again and went in. After 10 or 15 minutes, the door shuts. There wasn't any wind outside, and the front door and windows in the room were closed. We tried to open it. It was locked. After we broke the lock? How? However, we got out after a while. We decided that we'd do the stupidest thing ever. We carved our names into the wall with a knife. We also decided to take some stuff like knives, a small hammer, church candles, gas masks, etc. However, we got out of the bedroom and went to a small hallway. There was another door that was locked. After a while we unlocked it, but the hammer broke while doing it. The door was an exit, but it also led to a kinda big room that led to the basement. We'll get to that later. We went into the kitchen, and there was another bed and a weird placed mirror. It was placed on a table facing another mirror on the wall. Could it be a psychomantium? Then we decided we'll go to the basement. We went in there, and all three of us got a very strong headache. One of my friends almost fainted. We got out of there and got outside the basement, where the door we went through a while ago was. We stayed in there for a while and decided to get out of the house. That was our spot to meet up now, at least we thought so. Day 2, photo session day. On the second day, me and one of my friends, Jane, decided we'd bring our cameras, and so we did. Jane took this photo of herself in the mirror in the hallway. Her face looks very demonic. Her head is almost like a skull without any skin, and her eyes are almost completely white. That's not what she looks like normally. Also, behind her in the mirror can be seen a little white circle, like a round head. It might be dirt on the mirror, but I don't know. On the other hand, my other friend, Elena, asked me to take some photos of her, and the photos were all normal until... On the right side is Elena. She's wearing a white t-shirt. And there's this white thing next to her. It can't be me, because first, I wasn't wearing white at all. Second, I wasn't seen in the mirrors because I was on the side. It's not light because I wasn't using any flashlight or anything, and the only window in the room was behind the mirror. This is the first mirror I was telling you about in the first day, and the third photo is just what the bedroom looked like. It was a mess because we made a mess. Day 3, decoration. On the third day in the house, we decided to show it to our other friend, Mary. We showed Mary the place, and we usually were mostly staying in the bedroom because it was the most comfy and it was light. We decided we'd decorate it. We reorganized the books and magazines we saw on one shelf, and Mary found some kind of photos of different places, and we had nails from the basement, so she decided she'd put them on the wall. We were laying in the beds, and all this stuff without knowing about the photos and what we captured. Day 4, realization and apologies. When my friend noticed all of this, they started spamming me at 2 a.m. Jane's mother had an awful nightmare and woke up with tears and screaming. In her dream, she saw, and I quote, "a woman with skin white as snow, almost as if she was dead. She told me she had done a bad thing and you need to return everything you took." No, Jane's mother didn't know we had taken stuff from the house. After we talked for a while, we decided we'll try to get some sleep and we'll go back to the house, put everything back in its place and apologize. After we did that, as we were about to go to the park, just as we were walking away from the house, in the window of the attic, I saw the white silhouette of a woman watching us. After a few seconds, I saw it walking away. We promised every time we walk past that house we'll say have a good day, hello, or something nice. And we still do to this day. But we never told Mary about the photos and what happened, for her own good. We're still not 100% sure if the house was haunted, but we definitely learned our lesson. Tell me what you think about this. Hope you enjoyed the story. Stay safe, and what I think is that you all need to stop breaking the law. Okay, we'll overlook the fact that you're out and about during lockdown. That's fine. Whatever, that's fine. Don't be breaking into people's houses, even if there's not ghosts around. Still bad. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everybody who allowed me to use their stories. It is very much appreciated. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by signing up for my Patreon page, which is linked down in the description. You'll also find a link to my merchandise store on Teespring. If you need to contact me for any reason, kingofthecities@gmail.com is how you do that. You can send me shout-out requests, stories, and any business inquiry should also go there. I have another secret email, but very few people know that. Shh. I think that's everything for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.